Hello, everyone. About a month and a half ago, I made this video about COVID winter surge where I was speculating on whether we would have a winter surge this year. And in that video, I said that I was pretty sure that we are going to have a winter surge just because people were getting together more over the holidays this year. And, it was going to cycle through. That was before Omicron came onto the picture. And unfortunately, it looks like we were correct and there is going to be a winter surge, and there is a winter surge actually. This is Worldometers, which tracks COVID cases worldwide. These are worldwide numbers, and you can see right here we've reached the highest daily cases of COVID worldwide ever on December 23rd at 982,822 cases. That's not even the peak of the surge. The peak of the surge is probably going to happen, my guess is early, mid-January or so. So we are definitely at the biggest surge here. And if you look at cases in the United States, you see the upswing here is very rapid. You see the slope here is very steep. And we're almost equaling the peak of the winter surge last year. Last year it peaked out January 8th in the United States. And then if you look at the United Kingdom data, then they have already surpassed the highest numbers ever since the pandemic began in early 2020. So they're at about 122,000 cases daily. And they look like they're on the upswing still. So the United States and UK are still on the upswing. So there are two papers I wanted to look at talking about the reproductive numbers. There is a value in epidemiology called the R naught or the R0 or the basic reproduction number. And that basically is a number that states for each person that gets infected, how many other people do they infect? So if the reproduction number is 1, then each person that's infected will, on average, infect one other person. So if a reproduction number is 1, then what you have is a stable infection rate. Like basically infection rates will stay stable because each person just infects one other person, so the numbers will stay stable. If the reproduction number drops below 1, then the numbers of disease will head down because each person on average infects less than one person, so the numbers will slowly creep down. If the basic reproduction number is above 1, then they will slowly creep up. So in South Korea, they did a study where they looked at the Omicron variant only, and they identified it in their first cluster. And they basically figured out that the reproduction number was 1.9. So the R naught, R0, or basic reproduction number, was 1.9 compared to the previous findings of a coronavirus on the Delta variant, which was R1.0. So about 90% higher than Delta. And now remember that the R naught number is not only it's not only affected by the transmissibility of the virus itself, but by other factors like vaccination, social distancing, mask wearing, how many people are mingling together, that kind of stuff. So those things all affect the R naught number. So you have to assume that the other factors are staying relatively the same between these two. And then you can say that the increase in the reproduction number is due to the intrinsic biology of the virus. Because let's say you have a virus that's really, really infectious and will infect a lot of people. If you just isolate everyone, then the R reproduction number will drop to 0 because no one can infect anyone because no one's seeing anyone else. So in that case, the social distancing factors overcome the biology of the virus. But of course, that is not a realistic scenario. So both of these studies were done in South Korea, where basically social distancing factors and other factors are probably similar. So you would expect that the change in the reproduction number is a result of the biology of the virus. So you can say that the Omicron variant is most likely about 90% more infectious than the Delta variant, which is a pretty large jump. It's really big. Okay, so here's another study. out of the UK, and this has to do with the REACT-1 study. The REACT-1 study has been running since May of 2020, and what they're doing is they have a lot of people that are in this study, and they self-administer throat and nose swabs from a random sample of the population that are age 5 and over, and then they're surveilling their entire population. So to date 16 rounds have been completed. So they were comparing numbers from round 14 through 16. Now, this does not isolate Omicron, but we know Omicron was starting to be in Great Britain around round 16. Okay, so round 17 will probably be even more Omicron. Round 16 is when Omicron was starting to get into the picture, so a portion of this is Omicron, and a portion of round 16 is Delta. So what they notice here is that in round 16, let's see, let's go down here. Okay, so in round, let's see where we are. Let's go down to the summary. All right, here we go. Here are the results. They estimated a reproduction number of 1.13 for the whole round of 16. But if you restricted data from December 1st onward, the R value increased to 1.27. And then if you restricted it for December onward in the older group, it was R 1.41. Now let me see if I can find it. I thought I found another number that was even larger than this when I first reviewed this article. Hold on. We're going to go back to the results here. Okay, yeah, here we go. Okay, so there's a steep increase in prevalence in London with an R value of 1.63 from December onward, where there's a higher prevalence of Omicron. This is in comparison to an R value of 1.13. So that's about a 50% increase, but then, that's a mix of Omicron and Delta. So this paper kind of recapitulates this paper out of South Korea. South Korea, they isolated Omicron and they gave you a 90% increase in the R value. This one, in a mixed population of Delta and Omicron, you get about a 50% increase. So likely the increase is due to the Omicron in the area. So if it was a 50-50 mix, then you would expect that to be the Omicron would be like a 90% increase. So as you can see from these numbers, the Omicron is much more infectious than Delta, and the steepness of the daily cases is going up quite a bit. And in the next video, I'm going to go over the current data that we have on how severe the disease is, because the good news is although it is very infectious, it does not seem that the severity is as high. So that is kind of a mixed blessing there. All right, well, thanks for watching. I will link these two papers below in the description, so please check them out for yourself.